Hello, everybody. I'm going to walk you through quickly how you will be completing this particular assignment on landmark Supreme Court cases. I think for most of you it may be self-explanatory, but there's some language that's a little new to you. So I want to show you how to use the website and then how you would fill in the information on this particular assignment that's loaded into Canvas. So you're going to look up a specific landmark Supreme Court case. So these are any of the cases that you can choose from to do. What you would do is you first need to use this website, only this website. Please don't go into Google and find any other site. This site is very user-friendly. I'm going to show you how to use it now. So we're going to go into oyez.org, in this site we are going to search. So I am going to search a Supreme Court case that will that is not on your list. So let me think for a second. I'm going to do Kohlheimer versus, let me think. I forget who it's versus, but it should come up. So you would type in the search bar. I can't remember now. I'll just do Roe v. Wade. Okay. So if you put in the name of the case, so you're going to pick one of the ones from the assignment below and you click search. Why are we not searching? What's going on here? I put in Roe v. Wade. There we go. Okay, so we'll click on Roe v. Wade. And so this is one of the first pages you're going to take a look at. So you have a series of questions you're going to have to answer about the case you're going to look up. Some terminology I want you to be aware of is the word appellant versus appellee. Appellant is also your plaintiff, and it is also the person that is bringing the case to court. So they are the ones that feel like they have been the subject of injustice. So they are bringing the case to court. The appellee is also known as the respondent. And the respondent is the defendant, the person that is defending themselves. So in this case, Jane Doe is bringing the case of a woman's right to choose against Henry Wade, who is representing the legislature of the state of Texas, where she's from. The location here is showing you the lower court of where it was first heard. So it was heard in the district courts of Texas. And then when you take a look at the information down here, here's where you'll learn about quick synopsis of what the case is about, so the facts of the case. And then this is the question the Supreme Court has to answer. So the question that the court is answering is, does the Constitution recognize a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy by abortion? And they had to determine whether or not the Constitution is allowed to determine abortion or not. So that's the question that they have to debate. It will then go down and give you the decision. So the decision is how the 9 justices ruled. So you had a 7-2 decision for Jane Doe. So the 7 darker justices are the ones that voted in favor of Jane Roe. I'm sorry, I said Jane Doe before. Jane Roe and her right to choose. That means there were 2 dissents. Dissent means 2 justices or the justices that vote against the majority. And then down here it explains the reasoning, and it explains why they believe the case is going to favor Jane Roe and her ability to choose, how they interpret the Constitution to believe it's her right. And they talk about things like due process and the 14th Amendment, which is something that you addressed in the earlier PowerPoint screencasts. And they go through and give their reasoning. So this is the page you are going to use. They will have a page for every case that you have listed in the assignment. So if you go back to the assignment, you're going to have to pick 2 cases. So what you would do is you'd fill in for case 1, we'd say Roe versus Wade. The defendant would also be the respondent or the appellee. The plaintiff is also the petitioner or the appellant. And then you have constitutional issues. So what is the question that the court has to answer? Where did the case originate? So it showed us that in this case it was in the state district court of Texas. I'm sorry, appellant is the plaintiff, appellee is the defendant. And then it will talk about the year the case was heard, what was the majority. So in this case, it was 7 versus 2 was a majority ruling. And then you want to go back and use your definitions. Judicial activism versus judicial restraint. Was this a progressive act? Was it challenging precedent? Was it challenging the older interpretations? Was it a new and more modern way at looking at things? Or was it a very conservative ruling? Was it sticking with the letter of the law? Was it not a new interpretation of the Constitution? Was it really sticking with how things have always been done? So you want to pick one of those two and explain. Judicial review. Remember, judicial review is if the court determines a ruling or an action unconstitutional. So this case, Roe v. Wade, yes, they believe the lower courts were unconstitutional, that Rose was violated in her right to have an abortion. And that is this setting a new precedent. And in this case, yes, it is setting a new precedent because it is now making it standard procedure in all 50 states that abortions are legal constitutionally. So that's how you're going to use the website, and then you would pick another case from here, go back into the website here, type it in the search bar, and fill out the questions one more time. If you have further questions, please feel free to email me, but just remember the appellant is the plaintiff or the petitioner, and the appellee is your defendant or your respondent. So those are just some terminologies to keep in mind. Actually, I will type those in while I'm on this with you, because you'll see sometimes the cases use different terminology depending on how old they are.